Hi everyone, the Mature Simmer here. So I did want to take the time and thank Leo Driscoll for a comment he made about a mod that I actually talked about on my channel, Paint Anywhere, which allowed me to clean up my driveways. So welcome back to Hastings, North Dakota for episode 2. So we've had a lot going on in trying to get us to this point. So as you can see, I've started harvesting the field, but that did not come easily. I had to spend hours and hours yesterday chasing down my issue with my hung save games. I'm crossing my fingers that I have found the problem, or at least stabilized it enough, but I'm not entirely sure that that's accurate, but I'm gonna keep going. I've certainly saved the game 7-8 times in getting to this point, but I did have to do what I was worried about, which is I had to rerun harvesting, which really was basically doing this headland around the entire field, which, as you might imagine, takes a little bit of time. I probably had to redo it 4 or 5 times, so I probably spent easily 3 or 4 hours troubleshooting things yesterday. So definitely a lot of work, but I think, and I hope, and I pray that I have it figured out. So, and as you can see, I've got auto drive working pretty well. I actually had started recording this episode and restarted again, so I've actually already harvested this row and most of the next one, but now we're doing it again because we also had another problem that I've now taken care of. So if you recall, there was a pond at the edge of the field, kind of in the direction I'm looking, like straight over the harvester and over there. The truck really liked the pond, but I didn't like that the truck liked the pond, because basically every time the truck entered the pond, I could never get the truck out of the pond because it was very, very steep. I debated how to solve the issue, and I've tried to change the auto drive path. That didn't work. I tried a few other things, and so ultimately what I decided to do, and was successful at it, is I removed the lake via terraforming, or the pond, because A, I don't really need it. I'm debating potentially expanding this field at some point. That would seem to make a little bit more sense. I don't really need all that grass. I mean, I certainly probably want to leave some space around my homestead there in case I need to add more buildings, in case I want to throw some animals in at some point. But I don't know that I need that much space. I'm not going to expand the field anytime soon because I don't want to eliminate my options. Because once again, if I suddenly decide I want to start a dairy operation with 500 head of cattle or something, I need some space for that, and I would need grass, which I can certainly do in the fields, but in any event, the pond is gone because I had gone down this way here, and as you can see, it takes a little bit of time to get down through the field once, and had basically almost filled the harvester going back. The truck took off. We followed it to make sure that everything was working appropriately, and it just drove right into the pond. So yeah, the other thing, and I don't know if the term's right, but you can see as I'm like changing my perspective, there's some weird shadows occurring out there. So AFB Mapping, the creator of this map, has made a mention that they're fixing some shadow boxing issues that they said would also greatly improve performance of the map. Now, I've not been having any performance problems that I've seen, but I'm blessed with having a brand new PC earlier this year, so I definitely far exceed the specs for Farm Simulator. So I'm not a good judge of if this is a performance issue, but I'm guessing if you get closer to the minimums, that becomes a problem for some reason. And so he said he's fixed it, and maybe that isn't shadow boxing, but it sure looks like it's creating shadows in a box-like format. And I'm assuming shadow boxing, as I'm aware of it, as a old guy, where you're standing in front of a light and you're basically boxing the shadow, is probably not what he's talking about in relation to what he found on his map. So I'm going to assume it's this that's happening over there out in the distance. That basically they're either not going to show up at all, or they're going to show up more appropriately so that it's casting shadows based on the lighting of the environment, not the camera angle and so forth, because obviously there's sun up there and we have trees and we want shadows for that when we're nearby, but we don't want random shadows moving all over the fields like that, where it looks like, I don't know, aliens are taking over or something. So yeah, so my challenge, because I spent all that time yesterday basically fixing or chasing the save game boogeyman, is I really don't know how long it's taken me to do what I've done here. Because as I said, I probably was spending 2 to 4 hours working on things with regards to the save game, and obviously then redoing things and so forth. So I know it's somewhat less than that, but I don't know how much less than that. I don't know if this is a half hour, but that leads me to the other issue that I'm debating. As you can see right now, I'm simply letting the game run at real time because I'm trying to figure out what really makes sense to do here. And I had this problem last time I went down here, so I'm going to actually stop the harvester and then the truck pulls up alongside. For some reason, if I don't do that, it just stays behind me like it did the other way, where it couldn't go into the fruit, but obviously I don't want it to do that. I want it to empty the harvester. So the goal here would be to get this full, make sure it goes dumps another truck. So there is one truck in the silo already, so I did, in the process of working on this after the end of the last episode, verify I had everything working appropriately as far as the let me see if I slow down here, if I can get the truck to do something different and I can get into that front hopper. Now it's going to speed up with me. So I'm not quite sure why it does what it does, but let's see. If I stop, there we go. And now if I go, maybe now it will stay there. No, it's going to pull forward and stop taking grain. Oh well. It did fill the truck last time, but maybe that was because he pulled all the way around. Now that he's following me, I won't have that luxury. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, now that I have the pond gone, hopefully we've gotten rid of the non-save game problem I've had, because I did also have to restart things a couple times at least, because I basically had the truck in the pond, and as I said, the steepness that existed there was just no way to get out of the pond once the truck was in there. You know, maybe if we had the enhanced vehicle mod where I could turn the differentials on and off and it would change the traction, I might have gotten out. But this also was usually happening when I had a full truck, which obviously meant there's a lot of weight of grain in there as well that it's trying to pull out. So I may have just been stuck either way. So going back to the time discussion, what I'm trying to determine is, do I want to change the seasons to more than one day? Even though I'm not running seasons per se, I think the calendar still operates the same way. I know it does for when crops are finally able to be harvested. But given how many fields I have here, given that we own everything contiguously available to us up here north of the river, it's going to take a while to harvest. And I think even running it real time, I'm not sure that I could get these fields pulled off in a day or two, but I'll have to see. But switching to multiple days per month and then moving the time speed, or the speed of the time passage up to say 10 or 15, it's kind of 6 1/2 dozen of the other. I mean, in the end, the harvester doesn't move any faster. The harvester moves at the pace it moves. So, just giving myself more days but speeding it up, it's still going to take the same time it takes to harvest the fields. And in the end, you know, that ultimately means I'm not showing a lot of things on camera either way, because I don't think it's going to be compelling viewing to sit and do entire fields, even if I do them fully in time lapse. I'm not sure. Certainly, you know, those of you watching this series, let me know what you'd like to see, and if you want, you know, longer time lapses, I'm certainly happy to do that. I have no problem recording the video and editing it up, but I'm thinking fields of this size, even at like 20 times the speed, are gonna take, still gonna take 30 minutes or something. Well, it might not be that bad, but it'll be 10 or 15 minutes of time lapse to probably just finish a field. And going a lot faster than that on time lapse tends to look a little crazy and not be viewable, I don't think. Alright, so I don't know that I'm going to get to the end of the field before I get full at this point. In fact, I'm certain I won't, given that I've just gone from 82 to 84% in the time that I spoke. So I'm going to have to likely pull out and let the truck come to me at some point and get that done. So the other thing I will be doing, and ultimately I may introduce things within the series here, is, I think I mentioned in episode 1, this map is going to be a lot more doable with courseplay. And courseplay is not officially released, but they have actually provided, in essence, a beta version to play with. Okay, so I'm going to have to stop anyway, and then I'll just jump into the truck. So I'm going to do that here, and I'll back up so that the truck can come in and get to the pipe, and that should hopefully give us something we can, something we can work with. So let me get to the truck and make sure the truck's doing what I expect the truck to be doing. So he's exiting the field right now, which means he's going to the point, and you'll see where the pond was is basically not, it's going to look like mowed grass. So there it is. So that's where the pond was. So it looks like in this case we would have missed the pond. But it just was too much of a challenge. And there's not really a reason I need a pond. It was all nice and all, and you know, I'm sure it was there on the map because it's there on the real map. Well, actually you can see it is, because you can see the black dot there near the field, but we've gone ahead and modified that. So the good news is, yeah, this is the direction I do need it to come into the silo. So we'll go ahead and observe how this works. It works pretty well, unless it's going to prove me wrong, because last time it did great. So I was a little worried about whether it would be able to deal with the fact that there's, in essence, 4 hoppers. But it does seem to do a terrific job of it. Just, you know, obviously emptying a hopper at a time, moving up, because it is a very thin dump pit that we have. So I can't do... I might be able to do 2 hoppers at a time if I did it manually, but I'm not sure that the game would give me that control over it anyway. So either way, right now I need this to operate the way it is with the auto drive. Yeah, sorry we don't have, well, the disable camera feature, which is why it's jumping in and out as I move the mouse around, so sorry for that crazy motion there, as I was trying to get a different perspective on what was happening. Alright, so we've got the last silo, and then it has to drive all the way back to 43 unload before it can come and head to the combine. So once it's done here, it'll do that. So there you go, it got to the unload point. Now we can see it's got a minute and a half to circle around and get to the field unload point. So we'll connect back up once we get there, and we'll see what's next. Alright, so at this point I'm waiting for the truck to get here. Here it comes, finally. I did go ahead and take a look at the calendar, and at this point I've adjusted the months to 3 days. If you recall, the calendar that exists has basically just 2 months when we can harvest, and I think that what I understand from reading the Giants documentation is that even if you have it off, basically all it changes is when you can plant, but it doesn't really change anything about your ability to harvest. So it just lets you plant whenever you want. But basically the wheat, any of the cereal crops, are going to be non-harvestable, which I assume means they will die on me after August. So there's nothing I can really do in August, because the way Farming Simulator works is the season length change only takes place upon change of the actual season. So we're in summer right now. When it changes to fall, it will go ahead and use what I set on the 3 days, but I can't now make August work that way, and there's not really a way to do it, and I'd rather not lose all this crop. So at this point I've slowed this thing down as much as I can, which is half speed, and I'm gonna see, you know, how much I can get done, because once again I don't recall or don't know. I shouldn't say recall, because I had no way to time it, but I don't know how long it really takes. You know, I'm hoping that this field could be done in 2 to 3 hours, but I'm not sure if that will be the case or not, so we'll have to see. But at this point, going at halftime, it basically gives me double the time. And if you recall, I've got another wheat field to get done, and I believe I've got an oat field that I need to get done, and in theory I need to get them all done before midnight today. So I'm not even sure if that's going to be possible, and that's the challenge that I've got at this point. So I'm going to go ahead, because obviously it's big farming, and you've kind of seen what this sequence looks like, which is I'm driving a harvester down the field. My truck is auto driving and unloading me, and will be taking my crop to the silo. And that is what I am doing. So there's not anything else that will be happening. So at this point, I'm going to pop out and end the discussion, and we'll make some, we'll give you something to view in between that and getting everything done. So I'll pop in when there's something else to say. If you've watched some of my FSN videos, you probably will understand how that might work, because I also have exceptionally long harvests there because of how FSN operates. But I'll see you in a bit.
There's nobody else better than me around. You know I'm the type to stand out in a crowd. You might be jealous, but I can't help it now. I'm like a diamond, can't stop me from shining bright.
gone ahead and made a couple changes in our equipment. You can see I got the trailer out in the field, the rear trailer of that one truck, because it just kept trying to turn around and kept getting hung up. So I'm running this truck with just the front trailer. And then I went ahead and actually got another truck with another trailer, just an individual one, since obviously my capacity here will be lower and this thing will be running back and forth a lot more frequently. So I'm going to see how that's going to work going forward at this point. I have also been playing with Courseplay a little bit. Unfortunately, I've been unable to get it to work on any of these fields at this point, so I just don't know if it's an issue with the map or something else, because I've certainly been able to get Courseplay to function on the base maps with the game, but I'm not quite sure why it's not functioning on this map. Basically, the harvester just goes in a circle, doesn't even try to lower the header or start harvesting. It just spins in a circle. And after, again, about an hour of playing with it, I just decided I was going to harvest instead and just play and move forward. So we'll see how this goes. I'll keep you posted. But that's all I wanted to pop in and talk about at this point. And we're just continuing to move forward on this field, so it's working pretty well. And hopefully you're enjoying some of the visuals that are out there to give us a little bit of the flavor of being out here on these fields out in North Dakota, and at this point pulling off wheat. So even with the slow time progression that I have set, as you can see, it's getting late in the day and I'm still on this first field. Now, I've harvested a lot of it. My plan is to continue plowing ahead. I've gone ahead and left the number of days per month as it was at the default of 1, because I believe what I think I'm reading from the explanation that the game provides on setting that is it also impacts withering with that day. So my hope is that actually the crops won't go away. So it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to finish harvesting all the fields, even on the slow time that I have. So I'm doing this as a little bit of a test of FS22 logic and so forth as well. So learning as I go, and we'll see what happens. So I also ran into an issue where I tried to accept a contract for a field here, because there was a cultivating contract for field 81, which is one of the huge fields on the map. And I thought that might be fun just to try and see how that worked, especially if I could get Courseplay to do it. But when I accepted it, it vanished. Now I accepted another cultivating contract and it took it, so I don't know if we're running into a map issue or a giants issue or a combination again. But I let, I posted a comment about it on the page for AFB, so hopefully he'll see it and we'll adjust accordingly. Well, it's good to know that eventually, if the truck follows long enough, it moves over, because in the past I've been slowing down and kind of forcing it to go past. You'll notice I've got different trailers. I was hoping to find a trailer without hoppers. Been unable to do that, as even though it worked pretty well with the 4 hoppers with the dual trailer system that we had, it's really struggling to be consistent. So it has at times had auto drive fill the back as well, but many times I have to force it. So there's definitely some quirks that would be nice if things could get worked out, but once again, I'm assuming all these little nuances are a little challenging. This is the smallest trailer, without getting super small, that I can get to that's really able to be pulled by the trucks. So at this point I've tried every option. The one in between is a 3-hopper trailer, so there just appears to be nothing that doesn't have hoppers, which is a challenge. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and try to get this done. Not sure if I'm going to have enough time today to keep pressing forward, because at this point that would be 10 hours of real time almost. It is possible. I just don't know that I'm going to stay dedicated to it that long. And I'm a little curious how far I'll get. So I'll see you in a bit.
You'll win somehow, so give up on the battle, baby. It's hard, I know. Let the music take over, baby. I know your doubts, but it's wide open ocean, baby. Let sun pour down. We can dance in the light, oh baby. Heartbreaker, dream maker, let go of your problems and look at all your smiling friends. Jailbreaker, earthquaker. Don't you know you can settle for more? Don't you know you can settle for more? Don't you know you can settle.
So checking in again, I'm about, I don't know that I'm really halfway done with 89 or 87, but moving along. How about that? Obviously the long edges are up here, so I may be halfway done kind of north-south, but might have more quantity or time to go just because now the passes are longer to some degree. But anyway, moving along, starting to think there might be a chance that I can get everything off. If that's the case, I'm still gonna try to kind of run my test. I'll leave a little bit of that other field and let it flip over to September, and see if that little bit of crop that I left becomes not harvestable or so forth. But after this field, I think we've got oats on 90 to take off, so I'll provide a little video of that along with just letting you guys know when I get over there so that you can kind of see what the situation is. But at this point, it's 3.5 hours till the day is done, or the month is done, and doing pretty well, because it really only took about I think 20 minutes, so maybe half an hour, but I believe it was 19:30 when I moved over here. So I've been on this field for basically an hour? I don't know, maybe it was actually almost 1951, so maybe it's only been 40 minutes. But as I said, I know I definitely got over here before 8 p.m., which is what 20 would be. And so I'm looking at a little bit between 30 minutes and an hour to get this far. So maybe it's another hour, and then I think that field that we can see that's yellowish over there is 90. And I've had a little bit of fun, of course, with auto drive unloading. You'll also see I have a pickup truck and a Thunder Creek item because I was so focused on moving forward that I ran out of gas right there. So the harvester was out of gas. So I had to go ahead and deal with that. And while we wait for this to get emptied out, because at this point that truck, here we go, that truck is coming over. I've also got, since I have crop destruction off anyway, I'm just letting the trucks go through the crop if they need to, because otherwise it's just more complex than it needs to be. I am hitting reverse, but it's one thing that's definitely different with FS22 is there's a lot more momentum in the vehicles, which is probably realistic, but it just takes longer for things to get done. What is he doing? Yeah, this isn't really helpful. I definitely had a truck. Maybe it was because I was backwards, so I confused it because it was reading me as heading backwards. I don't know. It's just, I don't know that I can... Oh, goodness. Now I'm going to roll too far. Again, fun with auto drive. You know, it does do great things, it does get stuff there, but basically I'm still having difficulty getting a good path set up to have the silo emptied, so I'm troubleshooting that. All of that takes a little bit of time. I've submitted a couple bug reports to auto drive and other things, and at this point I'm almost 100% certain that the save lockups were why did it not empty? Oh boy. Okay, well, if it circles around again and doesn't do it, but I'll manually take over the truck, but it really shouldn't be doing what it's doing, so I don't understand. So I'm basically 100% certain at this point that it was the sim dashboard interface that was causing the hung saves, because that was something I was using, including when I first loaded this up, even though I don't actively use it that often, but it's just something I load just to have it. And once I turn that off and then kind of put back everything else, which obviously included auto drive. So this is one of the bugs that I reported. You can see how tight the trucks turn around at, and they can't straighten the trailer out when they do that because they're too close. And we'll see if this fills, and it won't. And that's part of the problem, is it will eventually figure it out, but it just keeps circling over and over again, and you're not getting the trailer empty. So the other thing that I did add, I don't know if you'll be able to tell. I don't want to mess this auto drive up anymore. So basically next to the electric charging station for the forklift, we now have a diesel fuel station, because the other thing I determined was there's no fuel station or anything on this map either. So be aware, if you choose to play this map, you're going to have to create a point where you can buy fuel, just like I had to create a point where I can buy seeds and fertilizer, which is why I have the multi-fruit buying station next to my sheds there, because there's no stores or anywhere to buy supplies. I think it's coming in at the same angle, isn't it? Alright. Okay, I need this. The problem is, the way this works with auto drive is, it's going to the other truck is going to come over because it's still set, and now at this point I've taken it off of auto drive, and so it's going to think, why is this not emptying? Alright, let me back this up, and then, well, I'm beginning to wonder if it is auto drive not lining up, or is there some other problem with, because I'm clearly, it was auto drive. Alright, so at this point, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I'm not playing that game. Alright. I'll let it fill, then I'll turn it back on so it can go empty, and then I'll troubleshoot my problem that I have with auto drive emptying. So anyway, the turn radius is one. The other one is there's literally no trailers you can buy without hoppers that are part of the base game, and auto drive just really has a hard time getting the other hoppers to work. So I've definitely verified that in, another hour and a half of play here. So I submitted that as something that I'd suggest they tweak as well, because it's just not pleasant when you're doing that. So I will get going and keep moving this along, and next time you'll see me is when we're heading over to field 90, or on field 90, somewhere with 90. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I'm coming back on earlier than I thought, just to give you an update. So you can hear the wonderful thunder. It's raining, and unlike FS19 with seasons where you can't harvest at all in the rain, I do have seasons off here, but it did give me a warning that if I continue to harvest in the rain, the yield will be lower, and so it certainly is. But at this point, because I'm still not sure that the crops will survive beyond today, the ones that are ready for harvest, I'm just going to press on and get what I can off the field, because once again, I'm still not entirely sure I'm going to make it. And even if I do, if I wait, at this point, it looks like sometime between 2100 and 2200 it might stop. But then that just leaves a couple hours, and so if I just stop, including this field, I'll have 2 hours, and I probably still got at least 30 more minutes on this field. So I'm going to keep pressing on, but I'm just letting you know the harvest level has dropped substantially. So, because we were almost at 1 million liters off these fields so far, and I think between when I stopped and now, this is the first time I've emptied the harvester, and it's been quite a bit of time. So in any event, that is where we're at, so I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I'm over here on field 89, which is the last one we need to get done. And I'm getting close to the edge of the map, so I figured I'd bring you along and see what we see. It looks like it's just going to be a hard edge. I know some maps have that. Some folks have talked about another map that I was going to take a look at, but there's just been a lot of feedback right now that it's just not ready to really be playable. One of them is partially because of the way the edges are done and where the initial fields are done if you do New Farmer. So we don't have that issue here where the New Farmer fields aren't positioned, but it does look, unfortunately, like there wasn't a clean edge provided where it really just vanishes at the end. And over to the left on the road, we do actually have some created road network that came from the automation of auto drive, where it asks if it wants to use it. So I was thinking that that didn't happen when we were having problems with the save games. I was thinking it might have been related to that. Alright, so yeah, the road just kind of goes off into oblivion, and yeah, we've just got, well, we don't even have an edge. We just literally have something and something way down at the bottom. So certainly some work can be put in here on this map to improve that, but overall, oh, look at that, we can look underneath. So a little bit of through the looking glass with Farming Simulator. You can see things you're not supposed to see. So it is intriguing, but also, yeah, it's just a little bit disorienting because that isn't the edge of the map in front of us. It does go on, but it does make it look as if, A, this field is getting closer to the edge, and therefore will eventually be at the edge. So somehow that changes as it goes along. So the other thing I had done, because pretty much rightfully so, this field is massive. There's just no way I was going to get this thing done. So I moved time up about an hour before we finished up the other field, just to get us closer to no rain. You know, because we are getting really poor yield. I mean, I've made it all this way around this field, you know, quite a ways, you can see, and you know, I'm only at 40% in the harvest, so the yield is definitely terrible because I'm harvesting in the rain. So normally I wouldn't be doing this, but some of this is a learning curve. Now, I did turn on seasons, again, turn the seasons piece back on to see if it would give me the inability to harvest entirely, and nothing changes. So it seems that the seasons implementation that Giants provided with the game doesn't stop you from working in the rain. It just has a consequence, but it's not a complete hard stop like it is in the Seasons mod in FS19, where if you try to harvest, not only does it give you the warning message, but literally your harvester won't function, it'll just run through the crops. So yeah, we're there. Once I have a full harvester, I'm gonna get the truck set up on the auto drive. I wanted to kind of circle this field and see if there's where the roads are, so that I could determine where I want to do the pickup point, but it's likely going to be over on that road that we had some of the automated routing on. Now, I'm probably just going to leave my double routes going and not use the auto-generated routes, because I've run into problems with that in the past, and I really don't want to be dealing with that when I'm already under a time crunch right now. So I know if I create my own network the way we had to do before, that will work. And if it doesn't work, I know how to relatively quickly get it to work. So where before I've wasted hours troubleshooting the automated route network that was created by AutoDrive before. So Yeah, the rain sounds are certainly better in this version. I don't know that I've actually been doing anything in the rain, so obviously they're using probably realistic recordings of thunder and so forth. So it looks like, no, I guess I started earlier. Alright, so I've set my border to the other edge of the field, so I'm not gonna adjust anything here. I'll just make sure I overlap that little bit. And as I said, the likelihood is we're going to not finish. I mean, we have an hour, a little over an hour and a half before the day's over, which is, 3 hours in playtime. So at some point today I'll certainly get it done, but you'll see it in the final video. You'll see where we got to, but I'm sure I'll jump back in a few times in the interim to show you what's going on, but it looks like I'm clearly going to make it fully around this field before I even fill my harvester. So once I do that, I'll definitely get the trucks going so that I don't have to worry about that later. But that isn't terribly exciting to watch. There's auto drive tutorials and so forth that I've got on the site if you want to learn how to use auto drive. This isn't going to be a way to learn it here, other than observing how it works and kind of gathering what I've done. You can certainly ask some questions in the comments if you want. I'll be happy to answer them about what I did and how I get various aspects to work if you're having difficulty with your auto drive experience. But at this point, I'm gonna cut this off for now, and I will see you in a bit. Alright, so I've got everything set. You can see there's a truck waiting there. That's my unload point. So they should be communicating together at this point. I also determined I wasn't going to waste tons of my personal time getting literally no crop off the field. So the entire headland is what you see in my hopper right now. It's what I got off of it, and I was like, I'm not going to harvest another potentially 2 hours, which in essence is what it turned out to be, to get almost nothing, because again, I know I'm not going to get the field done anyway. So the point was, let's at least get a solid harvest and actually get some oats off here. So let's see how this is going to fill now, because we're not getting the warning. Partially, I think, because it's not raining anymore and we're harvesting at a normal rate. Okay, so that is working. I'm just going to need to get the other truck moving at some point here. So it should be, it may actually already have delivered. Let me take a quick look. I'm not sure that it did, but at least we have this working. So unfortunately I'm going to have to stop to be able to check the other truck. Just got to the wrong place again somehow, so that's not good. I'm going to have to take a look at that. I thought it would work without any further modification, but somehow it came up this way, so it looks like I'm going to have to troubleshoot the network a bit as well, which is unfortunate. So I certainly would prefer not to have to worry about that. Is this the front or the back? It's the back. So let's see what we've got. Here we go. Because yeah, majority's in the front. So we're going to have about 950,000 plus liters of wheat, but just even that harvest that we had happening was pretty bad. So we're going to want to do that. And that will take the truck where we need it to go. So he'll be on his way. And then I'll just have to figure out what's happening with the path to try to get that solved. But once again, that should be done pretty easily, and maybe I'll go ahead and include what I do there, and hopefully it won't be too ugly to clarify it and get that fixed once I get a full truck. So for now, I just wanted to let you know what I've done. Basically sped up time again so that I'm actually harvesting at a pace that is worth my time. You know, this is full crop at this point, and so let's see, we're getting basically, we're getting 1% every at least 10 seconds, which is a lot better than what was happening before, because I'm sure it took me 10 or 12 minutes to get around that field, and I only had 70%, so it was pretty bad. Alright, so I'll see you in a bit when I'm driving along with the truck and trying to figure out what we're going to change and troubleshooting that auto drive network, and hopefully that won't burn up too much time, and we'll go from there. Okay, so this should fill this truck up, and then we will follow it along and try to get the network resolved. It's exiting the field, which is normal expected behavior. So yeah, oats definitely don't have the same yield as wheat. It's definitely less, so it's not to be unexpected that we've gotten this much crop off the field and finally filled a truck. Now there is one hopper full in the other truck as well, so we do have basically about 60,000 liters of oats, but nowhere near the volume as what we had of wheat. But once again, that's pretty standard. But if we look at the map, we just started to make a dent in the field, so even though it is a lot, it isn't a lot. So what we're looking for as we head back here is basically somewhere where the truck will turn that will bring it to the north side of the silo instead of entering the silo from the street. So basically we want the truck to get to the silo entrance from the road. If it tries to leave the road any other way, then that's where we have the problem. Okay, and I don't think it really matters how it leaves the field, because this is just a big loop that I created here that then reconnects itself on the other side. So even though this is normally the way we come in, where this ends up being a potential problem is if I've got multiple trucks running the route and then they merge here, so you can see the blue route and there they merge. So at this point they'd be together, but 16X maps, it's pretty rare that you're going to have trucks doing the same thing at the same time, unless you've got an extremely high yield crop where you're just filling trucks left and right. Then you could potentially have trucks in transit, but otherwise you're usually having one in the field and one on at the unload point waiting to get called. So what I ended up kind of having occur, which is what naturally occurs, is you have trucks at each end of the field, and basically the one you're nearest to gets called when it's time to call the truck. So yeah, so definitely I guess now that I've spent hours and hours on this map, and granted, it's not as if I've gone to other areas, this really is a very basic setup. You know, it's just if you're looking for a map that has some additional fields, or, you know, some big fields, you're looking for a large map, this will fit the bill, but my guess is over time, as map makers have more time to create more depth, something like this is not going to be as enticing as it may be now, because it's the only game in town. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Because yeah, the only other thing would be if it turns in here, but I broke that capability. So the only possibility is if somehow it's... Oh, I see. I don't know why it's doing that, but somehow that becomes... Right, so I'll do the same thing then. I will... Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'll do that, and basically creating one direction in there will solve the problem. It's just the issue is when I'm coming from the field, I'm not quite sure. No, that would still work, but I'm going to just test this here. And I'm wondering if it's simply because it makes the turn that fast that it had the problem, and that it jumps the track, that if it's slowed down around the turn, which it should, because it should be at 75%, but somehow that doesn't appear to quite work either. So let's see. So at this point it should just go straight ahead, which is what I want it to do. Yep. And then it can come out and exit the other way if it wants, but it likely won't. But the good news is then we're good here. So I can go ahead, I've got that solved. And then I can continue to harvest, and we'll see what happens at the turn of the day. So that will be the next time you'll hear from me, because I certainly don't expect anything to happen in the next half hour in game out of the ordinary. And at this point I'm sure this episode is lengthy enough, and then we'll, I guess, have a bit of a conversation about what's going on, and we'll go from there. Kind of sum things up. Alright, we're here, just about ready to roll over, and we'll see if we're able to continue harvesting, or if the crop, I guess, would wither at that point, normally in the season's standpoint, if we hadn't pulled it off the field when that happens. So when it flips to September, in theory we're not able to harvest oats. But I'm hopeful, since we have seasons off, that it will just ignore that, just as it does for planting, where I don't have to only plant oats in the planting window. I'm able to plant them whenever I'd like. And yeah, the truck is once again just following. It's not moving to the second hopper, but we're not full, and I'm thinking it may roll over before we get to the end of the row anyway, but we'll see what happens. So I'm curious, just like I'm assuming most of you are curious too. No, maybe we'll make it to the end, and I guess I'm going to be optimistic and just keep moving. I was going to say I could just wait until it rolls over and see if I can do anything. Oh, yeah, it did roll over. Did it change? Guess we'll see in a second, but it appears it's still letting me harvest, which is good. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and just take a look at the map. Yeah, it's showing harvest. Ready to harvest. It hasn't changed to withered. So I think we're okay, which means then I can kind of move along at the pace I'd like to, because yeah, now that our sorghum field is available, it looks like our potatoes are as well. So I definitely have some work to do here if I'd like to. I'm not sure I'm going to continue the series because honestly it's there's probably not a lot to see, but certainly, if you've gotten to the point here, if you've gotten to the end of this video and you'd like me to continue, certainly let me know. Would like to hear that. In addition, if you've enjoyed some of the stuff you've seen and just like kind of the consistent content and things around Farming Simulator, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And certainly if there's something you didn't like about it, it's helpful if you leave a comment about maybe why you press the dislike button, because I get some of those once in a while and there's no comments, so I'm not quite sure what it was that didn't work. And there may be things I can't change. Maybe it's just, hey, it was a boring video because there were lots of big fields. Well, it's a map with big fields. There's not much I can do there. But if there are things I can do, certainly feedback would be helpful so that I can make things that people are interested in watching. So it's a nice map. I'm hoping over time it gets fleshed out a little bit more. I do know the creator has been on one of the Discord boards that I'm on and been commenting that they're making some changes. Initially they were going to release something in the next day or two, maybe even today. Now it looks like they're referring to the New Year's edition is going to have lots of things solved. So it looks like maybe it'll be a week before there will be another update at the earliest. So in the interim, obviously I'm going to focus on my FSN work that I need to do tomorrow. I could have certainly sprayed today. I decided to go ahead and spend time here to see how things would play out. But at this point, I think some of the comments some people have made are accurate. This is a tough map to do single player, especially without fully working and functional course play. And by that I mean where I can do group harvester things with offsets and they trail each other and so forth. Those settings aren't even being worked on yet in the course play for FS22. They just basically have basic field work set up, and who knows how long those things will take to come. But I'm going to continue looking for maps, and when I find one that I can use other than the base game for, a realistic Let's Play where I can make some progress, because this is going to be very, very similar at this point to what you can get on the FSN side, where right now I have to do things manually. I can't do a lot of automation, and unless this becomes a multiplayer map somewhere on FSN or something, and I know some other folks are likely to do it on just standalone servers, but that's kind of why I'm at the point where I'm not quite sure I'm going to spend a lot more time here, because it did take all day just to do this little bit, finish 43, do 87, and do that little sliver of 89. So as you can see with the map zoomed out, we're talking about barely making a dent on anything on this map with what I was doing. So it's difficult to devote that much time to something where I'm not making significant progress, and I'm just kind of doing the same thing that I'm doing in another version of things I play, which is the FSN series. So if you like the realistic kind of real-time play, I'd encourage you, if you haven't, check out the Misty Hills Agriculture playlist that is the multiplayer FSN farm that I operate, and that's where most of my FS time is spent. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Hope you've enjoyed this. It's given you a little bit of a view further into this map and what could be possible. Perhaps it'll get you excited and you'll decide you want to give it a go and spend some time on it. So I will talk to you next time.